Hey everybody, my name is Daniel Russo. I am the Director of Brewing Operations at Oakshire Brewing. We are located in Eugene, Oregon. We are a production facility, a production brewery with distribution in Oregon, Washington, and Colorado through a distribution network of 5 different wholesalers. We also have 2 tap rooms. We have our original tap room in Eugene called the Eugene Public House, which we opened in 2013. And then in July of 2019, we opened up the beer hall in Northeast Portland, Oregon. The 2 tap rooms are our kind of outlet for all of our what we call pilot and vintage beers. The pilot beers being our one-off specialty beers that we do, and then our vintage beers being our barrel-aged beers. You can see we have a stack of barrels behind me that we utilize. And have been the outlet for these Smoothie sour beers in their entirety as a direct-to-consumer event. So I'm here to talk about Smoothie sour beer, what it is, how we make it, the marketing that we do behind it, and how it's reached new consumers and how it affects us, with these direct-to-consumer sales that we've been doing. So really to kick it off, what is Smoothie sour beer? Is this massively thick-headed thing that we got going on. Got this other one with this beautiful purple head. As you can see, thought I'd showcase what these can do and enjoy them as we're going through it. But essentially, Smoothie sour beer is it's beer that uses a large amount of unfermented fruit puree, as well as, in many cases, as they've evolved, a bunch of different new and interesting adjuncts, everything from, adding cinnamon or brown sugar to people adding like cheesecake mix or soft serve ice cream or, anything in between to balance out the fruit and create new and interesting flavors and combinations with this kind of stuff. So kind of the history of where these came from, it's an evolution really of the Goes in Berliner trend, and that turned into the American sour trend of kettled sour beer that got highlighted in the beginning of the early 2010s, 2010, 2011, when those beers started to come out and people started to add fruit to them, usually re-fermenting the fruit with those beers to make, the dry American sours, that are fruited sours, kettle sours that were super popular in cans. And to this day, plenty of people still make them and drink them. And then there was the advent of pastry beer that came around, in the mid 2014 to 2015, and big imperial stouts, and then kind of came to a headway with the fruited and kind of strange IPAs with the introduction of the milkshake IPA. By Tired Hands Brewing and Omnipollo. That's about 2015 that happened. Large amounts of unfermented fruit mixed with hops and vanilla beans, something that really kind of hadn't been tasted before, kind of done. And that really started the whole kind of crazy trend of putting all these weird ingredients into some of these beers that didn't normally make sense. Eventually, brewers just kind of transitioned into the sour base. Works really well. It had been done for a number of years with just, normal Goses and Berliner Weisses, just not with this amount of unfermented fruit puree. So that's kind of where that kind of started. That really started hitting the road right around 2018 into 2019, where it really started to pick up, making a lot of noise on social media, a lot of new people doing it. So pretty cool. We actually didn't make our first Smoothie sour until June of last year. It was, still early on in the pandemic life. And as I was saying, our tap rooms are our primary outlet for our specialty one-off beer. And but prior to the pandemic, most of that had only ever been just on draft. We canned a very small amount of 16-ounce cans of some of our specialty beers, but those were maybe every couple months. Starting to pick up a little bit, but not a super big part of what we were doing. But once we hit the pandemic and we needed to realize that we needed to shift into a canned format for our specialty beers, people wanted them. We were releasing new beers almost every week prior to the pandemic, and people wanted that after the first initial months, and getting on and supporting us with all our core brands, getting our Watershed IPA, Amber, all that kind of stuff. They really wanted the specialty beer again, and knowing that we really couldn't even open up the tap rooms or slowly open the tap rooms at small capacity, that the best thing to do was to start canning these beers. So in June, we released our first ones, the second being our Theme from the Bottom series, which is the start of our Theme from the Bottom series, which is our Smoothie Sour beer. I didn't really have the intent of necessarily turning into a series, but we just kind of went with it. And that first weekend, we released it. It was the late June. We put it out on a Friday. We made 80 cases of it, 86 16-ounce cases, and sold them. And it was absolutely nuts. Like, we never had this kind of hype. We ran through those 80 cases out of our tap room in about 4 days. We were gone by like the following Tuesday or Wednesday. So for 4 or 5 days at $23 a 4-pack. So like it was crazy impressive. But more than that was what we were getting on social media afterwards. Every new beer release after that, people were like, I don't want new IPA. I want Smoothie Sour beer. We had a similar label structure as well. All the labels in that initial series that would end up becoming the Theme from the Bottom series, but we had ones that all were based on this series, right? This look right here, what we call our Tone Poem series initially. And we had like a Helles Lager, we had a chocolate stout, we had like a fruited smoothie IPA, and straight up, some people, every time we released one, people were getting like very angry at us on social media. So we knew we needed to do this. We knew we were going to get a bunch of bumps, and ended up launching into the series full time at the end of August, and started releases first once a month, and then started moving them up to once every 3 weeks. Eventually doing, adding releases where we do a second formal release, a third release, and sometimes releasing 3 beers at once, up in case limits, and trying to, keep people happy. So it's been really interesting, super fun for us to do, and I'm really excited to talk about it. So we're going to get into production. I'm just going to wait for the slides to pop up real quick. These beers are absolutely a blast to make. The inventiveness that we get to go through and do, go here. The inventiveness of what we get to do and get to make is something, it's really kind of stretched our mind. I never thought I'd be making Smoothie Sour beer for this long. And doing this and this often, but I got to stay creative with it and got to have fun. So getting into our production of actually how we physically make these beers, I'm just going to start off with some stats that we go through. We usually tend to shoot for a gravity between 23 and 24 Plato starting, and a target finishing gravity of 5 to 6. All in all, what we're looking for is a 9.75 to about 10.5% ABV base beer before we add fruit. The fruit being unfermented is essentially like diluting back with fruit. So what we're doing after we add that much fruit that we're doing, we're looking for approximately 5% ABV beer. The other stat that we look at is our pre-fruit pH. The pH after adding fruit is always going to change. For the souring process, we're looking for about 3.4 to 3.55. We found that you get any lower than 3.4 into that like 3.3 or 3.2 range. And then depending on the fruit, you actually can make a beer that is kind of oppressively sour, especially with the additions of fruit, and don't become drinkable anymore. One of the things that we found that our consumers love about this is that it's kind of like Jamba Juice. They really want that like crazy flavor, and they really want it to be smooth, drinkable, and just really going. So that's kind of our target. Our grist bill that we're going with is very similar to our House Hazy IPA grist bill. We really wanted that full mouthfeel that goes into it before the fruit even does it. We wanted a body to stand up behind it. So what we do is we do about, ends up being close to 25-30% between white wheat and rolled oats. That's really build the base beer, and then a bunch of carafoam just to get that big head that we got going on. As you can see, I poured these right before we started. The heads are still like holding up. We're looking at like, how are we 10 minutes in right now? They just don't go away. Like it's insane. So I love that look. That mixed with like all the fruit pectins, like it just holds. Where's the grist bill? Sorry. Moving forward. There we go. Our mash temp we're looking at, we want it to be low. We're looking at the 148, 149 range, just because it really needs everything. The yeast is going to need everything it can to get through the fermentation. Between the high ABV that we're going for and the pH, even if it's not at its lowest, like the yeast will struggle going through it. So we want to give it every opportunity to get as low as possible. And that 5.5 to 6 finishing Plato range is usually where they all end up. Just for us, we're calcium sulfate, calcium chloride, super simple, just trying to build some mouthfeel in there. Little phosphoric acid for pH adjustment, normal auto temperature 170, and we don't add any acid during the water. Mainly because we're not fully kettling up to our normal kettle size, just because we need a smaller beer amount of fruit that we're going to get. Getting into our souring process, we do 5 minutes of boiling after we get to kettle up, just to kind of give it a boil, get rid of everything, just so the lacto is only working for itself. And then after that gets done, turn off the kettle, move it to the whirlpool for normal protein separation with those. With the rolled oats, even with a little 5 minute boil, you're going to get a lot of hot break out of it, and you got to get that separation before we get it into the lacto tank. And then we walk out into our lacto reaction vessel. So we actually have an 80-barrel tank that has stored our house lacto culture since 2015. We built it off of Nancy's yogurt starting in like late 2013, and then added to this tank because we were taking too much time up in the traditional kettle souring process, holding up the brew house. And we had a tank that was leaking glycol, and just made perfect sense. So that has lived in the bottom of that tank since, like I said, 2015. We've never opened it up, never cleaned it. It is normal. It just does everything we need it to do. It's pretty great. So we go for about 18 hours of souring, looking for that 3.4 to 3.55 range. And it's pretty predictable in that, where we're going. So it's basically like from when the first batch that we go in, goes in 18 hours later, which will be the next morning. By the time we're done, we're ready to pull out, and we're almost consistently always in that 3.4 to 3.55 range. Return to the kettle, and we do a 40-minute boil, just kind of getting that DMS out. We have a direct fire kettle. It's really not hard to do that, but it works really well. We don't add any hops. We don't add any other adjuncts. We do use Whirlfloc, and then we almost double the amount of our yeast nutrient that we use. We're going to want, again, yeast is going to struggle. So getting that extra yeast nutrient really, really helps. Fermentation, we're knocking out at, with the wort oxidation of 8 to 10 liters per minute. Again, that's almost double what we normally do, but it really, really helps the yeast get through that, especially that initial days of fermentation. We use the Imperial yeast flagship, which is just California Ale yeast, Chico, Sierra Nevada, whatever you want to call it. We did try initially to use our house hazy strain, which is London L3, or a variant of London L3, and it did not want to ferment out with those. With the high gravity and the pH, and our California at least just rocks through. 67, 68 degrees normal, but the biggest difference is our terminal gravity is not usually reached until about day 10 of fermentation. Most of our other beers, even big ones, Imperial IPA is down there by day 5. This will slowly chug around for about 10 days. It's pretty wild, but it gets it done. And then if we are adding any other adjuncts, we do not cool or crash. And then anything besides fruit. But if we do fruit, if you're just doing fruit, like normal crashing schedule after that, you can make it happen and transfer to fruit. Our secondary conditioning process. So all of our theme beers are themed from the bottom beers. The base style of it is with marshmallow cream and vanilla beans to add that like super creamy, vanilla-y, like almost vanilla ice cream character that you're going to get in like a smoothie. So we wanted the beer to be at ambient room temperature to really dissolve all of the marshmallow cream that's going to be in the tank, marshmallow cream, marshmallow fluff, whatever you want to call it. And then also the vanilla beans and any other adjuncts that we're going to use. So per what's going to end up being 14 barrels of finished smoothie sour beer, we're using 100 pounds of marshmallow cream and 3 pounds of vanilla beans. you start adding that up, and we're doing it every 3 weeks, and 2 different beers were released, and what vanilla beans costs. These beers are not cheap to produce. And then we'll also add any other specialty ingredients, things like cinnamon, graham crackers, coconut. During the secondary process, when we're seeing no fruit, the thought is that the fruit will actually negatively interact with those and not pull out their full flavor. So if you're just allowing the base beer to interact with the cinnamon, with the graham cracker, it's going to find a better way into the actual beer itself, which is great. That's what we've really realized. And it also allows you, as you're learning to do these, to make adjustments. Because if you add, like, you don't want to add too much cinnamon, you can ruin the beer really, really quickly with too much cinnamon, but you can add partial cinnamon and then add some more later when you're transferring onto the fruit, whatever you want to do. And you get that ability to learn how much of the ingredients you want to add to make the beer that you want. After we add those ingredients, we're going to transfer the beer. Our process is by 5 days about ambient temperature, cool day 6, crash day 7, and then we're going to go to fruit. Our fruit additions, so fruit puree is about 40 to 45% of the total volume of beer. So we're adding about 6 to 6.5 barrels of beer, meaning that the actual base beer is only about 7.5 barrels, 7 to 7.5 barrels. That equates for us to about 1,600 to 1,700 pounds per beer per release. So if we have 3 brands, we are buying, upwards of almost 5,500 pounds of fruit. We're really lucky. We're about an hour away from Oregon fruit products, so we can pick it up because shipping would get expensive otherwise. We add the fruit, we pull the fruit out and put it into the tank before we actually transfer the beer over. We put it in the cone or your dish bottom, whatever it is. We really want that fruit to get mixed in when you're transferring. So once the fruit's in, we transfer the beer on top of it, push it right in. If it has weird ingredients like graham cracker or anything, we'll transfer literally those with it as well to get it all mixed in there and add something. I think it adds a depth of character to these beers, but that's all personal preference. You can put it in bags and just get the graham cracker character out of it. But there's something about the beer as you're drinking it and there's little specks of graham cracker on the outside that the people that love these absolutely love. We then hook up the VFD pump, our variable frequency drive pump, through the bottom port into the racking arm. We spin the tank, keep it in recirculation the entire time that we're carbonating. You just add CO2 through your carb stone, just like you would normally, and recirculate so that it all stays. Once you reach your desired carbonation, your beer is ready for packaging. Essentially, you can really just go right to your canning line or keg it off, whatever you're going to do. The one thing you will learn is that you cannot zom these beers or use any other CO2 measuring device. They're too thick. Doesn't work. So you really have to do it by feel and how it's poured off of your Zwickel. It's a tough one, but that's kind of what it is. You learn where your beer wants to get to. I would actually say that we actually get our beer carbonated to about 2.6 to 2.7 volumes. I like that. I like what it's still, as I said, boom, there's still head on this beer that's holding around. I do know brewers that like their beer down the possible 1.7 to 1.9, barely any carbonation. But it just is what it is. It's your preference. If we leave our beer overnight, say we can't get to packaging the afternoon it was transferred, we just leave the pump hooked up and we spin it again one more time before we get going the next day for about an hour. Packaging after recirculation, we hook up right to the pump just because we want to have the ability to recirculate if need be. The fob on these beers is immensely slow. Because of the thickness. So we actually overfill a tad than we would, just to kind of counteract the fact that we can't get to get the oxygen egress that we want to. So our can weights, we're at 515 to 525 grams, which is that's a lot of that's just fruit weight. Essentially, don't get freaked out that you're think your cans are bigger or underfill them because you're over or above weight. The fruit's heavy. It just is what it is. And then we're checking our cans about every 20 cases during our packaging run. We're packaging 16-ounce brights. We want to make sure that those cans are they're staying, the beer is not stratifying in the can as the process is going. That means it's stratifying in a tank. We also want to make sure the carbonation's holding up. I really get the feel because, like I said, you can't zom it, so you're just pouring off the Zwickel, and that's kind of trying to tell you where it is. The cans will tell you how it actually is. And then if you ever see stratification, you can stop the packaging and just rehook up that pump and start going again. 20 minutes, you should be good to go. Cannery fermentation and how to move forward. And all candidness, and this is not, it's made up a lot of blogs all over. 15 releases, no issues with cannery fermentation. That's kind of one of the things that this beer gets knocked for in the thing of the exploding cans. But we had one that not 5 days after we released it, we were getting reports of like extreme re-fermentation, like pretty bad, like very, very bad. So what we did is we actually started a process of, well, what we did immediately afterwards, we recalled the beer. We felt that was the necessary thing to do. We do know brewers that will not like recall. That's just, it is what it is. It's like, it's your fault you didn't keep it cold. So it's, we don't feel that way. I'm 100% quality driven, and re-fermentation in cans that's not wanted, and or letting something that's out in the trade that can be, fairly dangerous to open up, and people are literally like giving calls that their kitchen was sprayed with pink cheesecake beer. Like, that's not really looking good on us. So we needed a path forward. For the last couple of months, what we've been doing is we were borrowing a bath pasteurizer from our friends in the state, but we can't hold on to that forever, and we knew we needed a different path forward. So what we have coming in, we got a lenticular modular filter that we're going to sterile filter between primary fermentation and that secondary conditioning to make sure that like we're getting as much of the yeast out as possible, but we don't and that works. So we've heard people that's their process through the entire thing. And it's like, oh, we sterile filtered, there's no yeast left in it. We don't fully trust that. So we actually also just got a batch pasteurizer that we will use, and it's much more accurate. A bath pasteurizer is great, but it doesn't have the accuracy of what you need. So what we want to do is we have a machine that can actually read and tell us the pasteurization units that we're looking for. If you're thinking about it, if you're just looking it up, it's easy enough because our primary thing is just our California ale yeast that might get left in the can. We're looking for about 12 to 20 pasteurization units in those cans, especially with the filtration. That'll keep us going, and that's going to eliminate the possibility of us ever having to do a recall ever again. Some of the weird stuff that we've done in these beers, but make them fun, and people go nuts for these beers, and it's been our biggest releases. We've used no bake New York style cheesecake mix, which it actually is incredible. Vegan soft serve ice cream mix, premix, powder. Vanilla pudding I've put into some of these beers before. We did one with really great chocolate sauce for our anniversary of the first release of theme coming in June. We're making a birthday cake one where we'll actually add cake batter and rainbow sprinkles, caramel, maple syrup. And that's on top of like graham crackers and coconut and all this weird stuff in these sour beers. So that's just kind of some of the weird adjuncts that we've done. Big one, this is kind of last slide on the production, is thoughts on lactose. I know a lot of people use lactose in these beers. We don't. These beers are not vegan because I do use marshmallow cream. I do understand that. But I've never, we only use lactose in this brewery about once every 2 years when I decide to make a traditional milk stout of some sort. Besides that, and this goes into the realm of how I've learned before the smoothie sours, into the realm of hazy IPA, is actually manipulating gravity and manipulating the way your yeast works to get those higher residual sweetness in the beer without having to add lactose. Even though, like I said, the marshmallow cream's there, sometimes lactose in beer has a negative connotation in relation to these beers, and I rather try to get as many out to these people as possible. So that's what I think about lactose. I've had some fantastic ones with lactose as well. It's just the way that we want to go on that. So that's on production. I'll make my email available if anyone wants to send me an email. It is dan@oakbrew.com, and I'm happy to share these slides with you and or answer any questions after this. So I want to throw that out there. Now on to what else that we do with these beers and how we see them is that the sales and marketing and what has been driven for us since we started releasing these beers and what we're really seeing from it. So as I mentioned, we're 15 years, coming on 15 years in October. We're in Oregon in a way, we're a legacy brand, especially with some of the other bigger ones like Bridgeport going away and Portland Brewing going away. And, so we're in that realm of becoming an older brand. And it's the same, it was, great drinkers kept us going forever, same regulars, but, nothing really that we're getting new people to come into it besides for travelers. What we saw was a reinvigoration of the brand. A lot of new people that have come in, a lot of younger people, and a lot of people that interact on social media and bring in people from all over the country. it's reinvigorated old customers as well, seeing that. I mean, our patios are always busy, but seeing these new fun beers, something that they can try. It's a new drinking experience besides for the IPA that they're always drinking. It's regulars experiencing new and fun drinking. We call them drinking experiences. And then our staff engagement with all these new people and more people coming in, and the education that we're giving them on how these beers are made. It's pretty awesome. Just at the basis too, if we're going into what these beers mean for us, it's as far as our sales go and where it is, it gives us a strong and predictable rate of sale, and knowing sales when we're doing it every 3 weeks, knowing what we're doing, we're able to predict what we're going to sell. And it gives us a route to market that we know how to manage because it's coming out of our house. With these beers, you're getting especially selling them direct to consumer, you're getting a net income well above your normal average. There's no sales team required besides your bartenders that are turning these people onto the beers if they haven't already been turned on. The beer doesn't die in a wholesaler warehouse. We release on a Friday, and all pickups happen by the end of that weekend. They are in people's hands. They're in their coolers. They're out the door. We know where they are. And the pre-sale system that we built to release these beers. So we do a release on a Tuesday. We'll get into it a little bit more. Release on a Tuesday, and out the door on that following Saturday is predictable, and there's no added overhead. And it also allows us to use a lot of these expensive specialty ingredients, real ingredients as opposed to flavorings, because we're able to cut the wholesaler margins out of the situation. And then it allows us to retain talent, not just, on my sense, but I got a lot of guys on my team, and they're having a blast with these, and seeing creativity makes, people thrive and not looking for another place to go. And one of the biggest things, and one of the reasons that's how I ended up doing this presentation when I wrote an article about it, is there's a big group of like haters that really don't like these beers. They think they're a monstrosity to the world of brewing or whatever. And it only draws more crowd to the brewery because they hear about it and they get interested in it, and it brings more people in. And it's just a way to talk about it. The biggest landscape of how we traverse the connecting of customers, it's not our normal, route of market. It's not, like we said, we're not taking sales. It is social media, and it's specifically Instagram. We're seeing it's kind of like the beer side of Instagram is kind of like the adult playground for these people with these beers. They tag us, they pour videos, they use crazy glassware and want to show it off. They want to interact. They're making them videos fun, using music, making comments. They interact when we interact back, and they want to become friends. They want to become family with us. And the more that we interact with them, the better that they keep coming back and want to be involved with it. I think one of my favorite stories of that, and it still pops up through like months later. We did a version of the theme called with fruitcake, spices, all the traditional fruits, all that kind of stuff. And we did the pre-release and started getting comments. People were like, "Oh my God, that's disgusting. Who eats fruitcake?" And one of the customers was like, "Oh, I bet you this is going to taste like my Aunt Linda's fruitcake that's been sitting in my pantry for 5 years." And I saw that comment. I laughed my butt off. And when we were doing our release video for it, I gave Aunt Linda a shout out. And that person saw it, and 5 other people saw it. And like now, the thought of Aunt Linda's constantly in our comments. They always bring it up. They make jokes about it. We interact, and it keeps these people coming back, which is the huge part. We get return. We're getting new customers, and we're getting return customers. It's an entire new subset. The thing is, we're connecting with all these people that we hadn't connected with before. Specifically, like if you look at it, like we love our regulars, but they have a Watershed IPA, our flagship IPA, and then we sell them a Smoothie sour beer. You're just trading drinking experiences with that person. There's not an added to it. I mean, that person's going to come in no matter what. This is an entire subset of new people that are coming to drink these beers. We do have regulars that love them, but specifically, this group is what we refer to as cannabis enthusiasts. They think that these interact with their smoking and situations that like perfectly. And so, I mean, you look through our Instagram and you have glass blowers, you have bud tenders, you have people that interact. That's just their world is weed. And it's been great. They absolutely love what we do and how they can do it. And then they're the ones that want to connect on social media and bring in more people. And it's just what makes it happen. And a lot of that ends up being these influencers. When you hear that, you hear influencers. They really do matter. And when they're the ones, when you can go off them and what they like and like art that they're liking and the way that they're pouring beer, and you interact with them, then they start tagging you with friends, and then your base just keeps building. We do use blogging connections as well. That's a big part of the people that we connect with, but we never push for what they do. We send them cans if they're interested. I want to give them some cool stuff, but we don't want to push them too hard, because bloggers, they'll choose how they want to interact with you, but it is a very great connection point. And it ends up being like a way for you to connect. If you do have re-fermentation issues and put it out there, they're much more willing to, put their influence, another set of influence into like the beer geek realm. That will really helps. As I said, our big thing is Instagram. That's what these eaters want. And the other part of the interaction is the reposting of the pictures that they do. For us, we have to balance the amount of reposting of the smoothie sour beers, as awesome as the videos are and cool, because we do have a large amount of core brands, as long with the rest of our pilot beers that we're releasing at any point. We don't want to cannibalize that. So if you're not solely focused on making smoothie sour beer or these hypey beers or whatever, we want to make sure that we're giving enough diversity, but it does bring people in to see those beers as well, and turning like people that were non-craft beer drinkers into craft beer drinkers just through these beers has been a great market to continue to build your core brands and get people interested and happy in those. Like I said, 15 years brewing some of the same beers, they're awesome, but we want to get people to keep going them. The other big part that we've seen was the importance of online ordering and how it's directly affected what we're doing. We went to an online ordering system at the beginning of the pandemic, absolutely necessary. We were barely doing, it was contactless delivery or contactless pickup as well. So we had to put that in place. We knew we wanted to, the way the restrictions were going. And then what we saw with a lot of these other people that were coming into these beers and the other big releases and places in Oregon, places across, is that they were doing these releases and 300-400 people were showing up on top of each other on a Saturday morning at 6 o'clock with no line management. And you're hearing horror stories and people showing up, they want the beer, but who wants to be in front of 400 people when we don't know what's going on in the pandemic? So we knew we needed to eliminate that. And by starting an online pre-sale system, it eliminated the long lines. It eliminated people waiting, no in-person griping. It just made it easy. Giving them a 3-day pickup window has been fantastic. They get the opportunity to show up anytime from Saturday morning at 11 o'clock until Monday evening when we close down at 10. So they get a chance to get down here. So it's absolutely perfect. It also allows that fluidity between the two locations. Knowing how much we need to send, between it. So starting the pre-sales on a Tuesday, we're able to kind of move beer between the two online stores. And if if Portland is really digging on lemon raspberry cheesecake and Eugene's digging on, blue raspberry cotton candy, we can pull some from one place. And so we have fluidity and get everyone they want, what they want when they want it. And it also allows us to have their information and target them for releases, and they end up picking up more and more stuff at any point when they come into the pubs to pick up, and we can see what is connected with them. So we know that they're drinking hazy IPA as well, or they want pastry stout as well, whatever it is beyond the smoothie sour beer. So we can have more information to better build our pilot lineup and also just see what people want for their core beer. As I said, the big part is that we're really seeing is these new consumers, and it's been the life of what we've done and getting us through our COVID year, and bringing new customers in and interacting. I'm having a blast. It makes it awesome, and people will travel for these beers. We're seeing people coming from Seattle all the way down to Portland. We had no specific clientele. We were only 6 months in to being open in Portland when the pandemic hit, and allowed us to really build a new clientele of people in that town. in Eugene, we had regulars; they were predictable, and this completely changed that dynamic of who we actually have in house. Coming in to see these beers, going in on a Saturday or whatever when it's 80 degrees out and seeing an entire every table that you have with 4 people at it, and they all have these smoothie beers. It's pretty awesome, and many of them you've never recognized before. Like I said, these people travel for hours. People coming down from Seattle to go to Portland. We got people traveling from Southern Oregon, which is 3 hours away, and even Northern California, nearly every 3 weeks for these beers. People coming from Bend, which is about 3 hours away, all over Oregon, all over the Northwest, and then they're trading them and they're seeking them out. We do allow proxies, so you can pre-order and you're allowed to pick up for at least you're allowed to pick up 1 case of each brand per person that you're proxying for. Which, it gets more sales, and these people will ship them, they'll trade them, and you'll see them, like we've seen people opening up cans in Canada, all over the Northwest, all that kind of stuff. Like I said, they're young, fanatical, they're invigorated, and they want to share their experiences and make the experiences, making an experience with you. So that is kind of our story on Smoothie Sour Beers, how we do it, why we do it, and what it is. If you have any questions, please type them in. I got one from a gentleman who sources all our fruit purees. Where do we source them? We get our fruit puree from Oregon Fruit Products for the most part. They are up in Salem. I think that they overall are the best fruit that I found, especially for like berries and everything. Berries, raspberries, strawberries, blueberry, anything. It's Northwest grown. Absolutely fantastic. Absolutely jammy. I've also used Bitterfrucht. They are based out of, Denver, Colorado. They have some really cool, if Oregon Fruit Products is ever out of stuff, we'll order from them. They usually have it in, and then they have some pretty unique fruits. Oregon Fruit Products is pretty straightforward in their fruit, delivery. It's the standards, but Bitterfrucht has some weird ones like sour sop and some other stuff. So I haven't had any fruits that didn't really work for it, but you have to learn to balance out the way that you utilize the fruit and be receptive to the fruit that you're getting. So like we've done a couple beers where we did like lemon blackberry, or we did a cherry key lime pie, and luckily had some knowledge of that beer outside of the smoothie world from other people that have used them and didn't work right, or just using them in other beers that weren't these smoothie sour beers, and knowing that like how tart key lime is or how tart like Meyer lemon puree is. So learning how to balance that, if you try to do key lime, like 100% key lime, like the beer is going to be, no matter how, it's going to be undrinkable. So you just have to figure out the balance. That was where that cherry came in. I wanted to do a key lime pie, but it wasn't going to work if I didn't have another fruit in there to balance out the acid. You can make a key lime pie beer, but not with that much fruit. It's not going to be a smoothie. So you need to find something else. Same with the lemon blackberry. Those will balance out about, a quarter or like three parts to one. So I think it was like 3 drums of lemon, or from blackberry to a drum of lemon. So it's all about finding the fruit balance. And the other one is you can add too many fruits. You start seeing these get into like 4, 5, 6 fruits, and they just don't blend. It's finding the fruits that are going to work. Especially starting utilizing kind of your beginning, like your standard flavor purees or like flavor combinations always work. Like, jammy fruits always work together. You get blackberry and raspberry, people are going to be happy. But thinking of, you can just go on the Jamba Juice website and it sounds ridiculous, but you can go and be like, oh, like pineapple, orange, guava, like POG is a thing that's been around for freaking ever. When you put those 3 fruits together, they've obviously worked out. It helps. So it's kind of finding your own fruit preference and the way that you want to use it. What kind of batch pasteurizer are we using? Is it heat or UV? So we started our first pasteurizer that we used. We borrowed from a brewery friend here in Oregon. It was a bath pasteurizer, so it was heat. it was heat, and it totally, it's basically water at 155, 160 degrees, crates of unlabeled cans, about 14 crates at a time in for 20 minutes, hoping for hitting our pasteurization units. Unpredictable, especially with cans. As far as what we were getting for readings, no issues in the last 4 months of using it, but we had to return it. So what we actually ended up getting is we got a Pro Engineering batch pasteurizer. It is basically trays that slide in, and it is heat as well, water and heat, slow raise, about 20 minutes, looking for about 12 to 20 PUs to really kill off the yeast. We have not, with all the batch pasteurization we've done, we have not seen any effect in flavor. We started in, what was that first one? The first one was, I think, the beginning of February, was the first batch we did. And with these beers, I'm going through them about once a week with my team. If it's just my lead brewer or, the other guys to see what it is, and doing flavor analysis through it, and keeping cans, very cold of older batches, and have not seen any discernible flavor differences between the beers. So I'm feeling confident. When we actually started the conversation with Pro Engineering, that was the first question we asked as well. Like, what do you notice lies with these beers, with beers and pasteurization? They're like, if you we'll pay for the machine if you can do a triangle test multiple times and pick the wrong beer out of it. We're like, okay, that sounds great. And it's also utilization. I know there are different types of beers, more delicate with fruit and stuff like that. But knowing plenty of people that have been doing heat pasteurization with barrel aged beer, specifically barrel aged stouts, and seeing what that's done for the beer and how it really hasn't affected anything, and trying them next to each other has been, it gave me confidence in the way it's going to do it. And I think they're tasting great. The response for the last 2 months from our consumers has been fantastic. So yeah, it's been awesome. Any other questions? So yeah, if anyone ever has any other questions about this, please feel free to email me. My email is Dan, DAN, at oakbrew, OAKBREW.com. I'm happy to give you, all our information. It's pretty fun. Like I said, it's been a new and interesting concept of the way that we're going and why we're doing it. And yeah, it's just wild. It's to see how people have responded to these beers. Like I said, I never thought I was going to be doing this. But the other aspect is it allows for creativity outside of a smoothie sour realm, and allows other beers to thrive, and allows us to experiment with other stuff. I've got an Italian Pilsner in tank right now. We just released like a 3.4% American lager, got like an experimental West Coast IPA. It hasn't stopped us making the normal, like the traditional styles of beer, essentially. We're brewing lager beer right now. As we speak, it's one of those ones that it kind of gives you a pathway. And when you see the response from people, you can hate on it all you want. And I think that's where some of it comes in, is the fact that, people want to find a reason to be mad at you. And at the end of the day, I guess that's success, especially in a tough year. But it's been great, and I'm having fun doing it. And we've got weird flavors. The weirdest one that we've seen, I've tried to go back and just make just straight up like double fruited beer, like no crazy adjuncts, no cheesecake. And like people are like, where's my cheesecake beer? And I'm like, well, this is awesome. I guess this is where I'm living right now. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I said I'll hang out for another couple of minutes if anyone's got any questions. But yeah, that's Smoothie Sour Beer. Cheers. I will tell you, it really does taste like a lemon blackberry cinnamon roll cheesecake. It's weird. It's wonderful. And as you can see, this is the other one I was showing you. You're still, just at 45 minutes later, that's what the head did. That's kind of how it looks around the glass. It's the weirdness. That was a weird one. You want to talk about weird ingredients? Using like 100 pounds of blue raspberry cotton candy floss sugar. Want to make a cotton candy beer. Didn't want to use blueberry. I didn't want to use blueberries and raspberries.